one of my best memories of college, of my time at Emporia State, was intramurals. And there was a bunch of us. There was several guys from Emporia and several guys from Abilene, and then people from all over, like Bob Von Stein, who's a legendary name, was a great coach at Opie and at other places, and he was a great athlete. And we had a team called the Red Dots. And the Red Dots always did their pre-games at the Rock Castle. And those people who have any history with Emporia State remember the Rock Castle, and for those who don't, it was a bar. And we'd drink a couple beers and then we'd go play football or whatever. And the Red Dots were good, and we had fun. And I worked all the way through, and most of the time I worked at Rob Fogel's clothing store, which led to the fact that I owned a clothing store later in my career. But I learned a lot from Albert Ropfogel and Leonard Ropfogel, and that was a good job. And then the big deal was I changed my major after two and a half years, changed from education to get a degree in business. And probably the biggest challenge that whole deal was my last semester, my senior year, I had to take typewriting. I had to pass typewriting, and I will admit right now to Martha Burden, who was my instructor, I cheated. I like to believe that I'm an entrepreneur. I was really fortunate. You know, your parents are your parents, but I was really lucky to have my dad be my dad. And we were partners in virtually everything that I tried. And I did a number of things and had a lot of success, but I didn't. For example, right out of college, I got a job with Procter & Gamble, and I worked a year for Procter & Gamble. And when I went in and told my boss I was quitting, he said, "You can't quit, you're taking my job." And I mean, they had me figured, but it was too much of a cookie cutter thing. I wanted more excitement than that. I seem to have an ability to find good people and empower them and get out of the way and let them do their job and make me look good. And so that was pretty important. Specifically, you know, Procter & Gamble, I worked a year at the Emporia Gazette as circulation manager, had a men's clothing store for 3 years, then got into the real estate business, actually sold life insurance as part of my intro into the real estate business with a guy named Morris Mateel, who's an Emporia State graduate, and that was Farm and Home, which now is Jerry Olmstead's company. But I was there for a couple of years. I left there, went out as a real estate broker, had my own real estate company for a short period of time, and then 1980 came, and I always say Jimmy Carter, I don't know if it was his fault, but 14% mortgages got me out of the real estate business, but it forced me to find something which is probably my shining star of my accomplishments, and it was a company called Value Line. And if we had time and we talked about how crazy it was to try to start a long-distance telephone company in Emporia, Kansas in 1981, I mean, it literally had no chance, but we made it, and it succeeded. And in 1998, we merged with a company called Birch Telecom. At that time, we had over 100 employees. We were billing millions and millions of dollars a month, and it was a big success, and had most wonderful people working with me. And now I'm associated with a lot of those people. We're associated now with ValueNet, which is our little company that we started 5 years ago here in Emporia that's bringing fiber and bringing internet and television and voice to every premise in Emporia. So in between there, we purchased the radio stations, KVOE, AM and FM, and then we added another FM station. And we're coming up on 30 years that we've owned those radio stations. And I guess one of the things that maybe makes me most proud of all that stuff is the Chamber of Commerce honored Value Line as a Business of the Year. They honored the radio station as a Business of the Year. And 2 years ago, they honored ValueNet as a Business of the Year. So that's kind of a you know, a fun thing to do. As I said, I've dabbled in real estate, and we've done some real estate development, and we've had a pretty good run in the hotel business as well. So that's kind of it. But I'll give all the credit, 100%, not even 99. I'll give 100% of the credit to the people that I've worked with, and I'm always careful to say that I work with them. They're my coworkers. They're not my employees. And you know, I've been able to find a lot of people who thought the company was theirs and treated it that way, and that's been the key to that success. You have classes, and you'll be amazed what you learn that you'll use in later life. So prepare yourself and take advantage of that. And then when you get out of here, go for it. Don't be afraid to take a chance. You know, my dad made his fortune in the oil business, and that's taking a big chance. And I'm glad I was his son, because I've kind of been a chance taker as well. But I had an English teacher in high school who said, "Change is the master key," and he was quoting Winston Churchill. And I evidently took that to heart, because I changed jobs more than a dozen times before I got set on what I ended up doing. But if you go out and you start a career and you're not happy with it, don't be afraid to change. And if you are happy with it, go for it. And if you got an idea, take it to your boss or take it to somebody else. But let it all hang out. I mean, you only get to do this once, and the last thing you want to do is get saddled into a situation where you're not happy. Everybody ought to be happy, but you may have to change jobs and some of those kind of things in order to get there. Just don't be afraid to do it. I'm Steve Sauder, and I'm a Hornet.